And to start this video, I would like to make an intimate question to you. Have you ever fell in love? Have you ever seen something and said, "This is perfection. This has all the elements that I love"? Well, I had this feeling a couple weeks ago when I discovered a short anime movie called The Running Man from 1987 and from the Japanese animation studio Madhouse. And I got so excited with this crush that I said to myself, I need to share this with the world. Hello, my name is Gus and I love to talk about movies and especially trash movies more than anyone that I consider normal in this life. And if you like this kind of animes that are cyberpunk, visceral, violent, and with no limits, subscribe to the channel because this is your house. And after the video that I talked about the anime Genocyber, which I will leave the link right here on the page or right here on the description if you haven't seen it yet, I started to look for a next anime that I could talk here in the channel, an anime that could blow my mind and I got really excited to talk about. And when I heard about this short anime movie about racing that had cyberpunk elements, a dystopian future, and elements of horror, I said to myself, I need to watch this now. And when I watched it, it was obvious. It was love at first sight. As I said, Running Man is a 1987 short anime directed by Yoshiaki Kawajiri. That soon after this work, he would also direct Wicked City, a famous anime that I will also talk in this channel in the future. And he is part of an anthology movie called New Tokyo, a movie that has 3 short stories directed by famous directors. The first one is called Labyrinth Labyrinthus from Rintaro, director of animes like Metropolis. And the third one is named Construction Cancellation Order from the director Katsuhiro Otomo. And if this name is familiar to you, he also directed the great classic Akira. This movie was produced by the Japanese animation studio Madhouse, a studio that also produced many crazy but amazing classics like Paprika and an animated movie that I love called Perfect Blue, which I would love to also talk about it in this channel. A runaway man is riding between these 2 stories, and the plot is very simple. In the dystopian future, we have this race called Death Circus, where the pilot Zack Hugh has dominated all the championships for 10 years. Known as the God of Death, the audience loves to watch his races to see how he's going to cheat death in each one of them. Because generally the pilots of this race have short life expectancy, living mostly 1 year. The story is narrated by a journalist called Bob Stone, that discovers that Zack Hugh has some telekinetic powers like Jean Grey from X-Men. And during one of the races, he uses these powers to kill the other competitors in very creative and brutal ways. As I said, this anime is part of the anthology stories and is from 1987, 1 year before I was born. And I must say, I've never watched such perfect and beautiful animation that still holds up to this day, and I dare to say is much better than most of the animations today. Let's talk about the elements one by one. First, the world design is fascinating. I am a huge fan of 2 things that this animation presents. The cyberpunk, which brings us back to comic books like Heavy Metal from the 70s, bringing this futuristic style that is dirty and rusty. And stories about racing. I actually love sports movies and I do have a fascination for racing because there is a gladiatorial element to these sports, which for me is fascinating. And by the way, one of my favorite racing categories is the super truck. And I'm planning to create a graphic novel with this element of racing still this year, so keep watching the videos in the channel for more news in the future. By the way, besides these bombastic elements, there is an element that is very interesting, which is a horror aura, a sinister mood in the story. Zack Hugh has this power which is not explained, but its demonstration brings a tone of horror, because by using it, the character suffers a monstrous transformation. He starts to become something like a demon during the race, or literally a god of death like he is known. And I am a sucker for these body transformation movies like The Fly, for example. You see, this anime hits all the points with me, and like I said, for taking place during a race, This element of the deadly sport is filled with adrenaline, which brings a constant element of danger, not excluding the element of mystery, and even a certain poetry in Zack's trajectory for being a racer that will do whatever it takes to win and cheat death, which takes him to a destiny that, without giving spoilers, is very strong for his little arc. Another thing that was a jaw-dropper for me was the design of the race, especially the vehicles that are more like ships that slide over a track. And this track is either vertical and forms a big circle around the stadium. It kind of reminds me of that game from Super Nintendo called F-Zero, but much cooler of course. And the interesting thing is that the pilots look trapped inside the ships, almost like trapped inside the machine. The cockpits are very tight, claustrophobic, full of cables, wires, and rusty technology like monitors. Consequently, when Zack Hughes destroys the other cars with his powers, the visceral sensation is much higher. Again, without giving spoilers, but each vehicle is destroyed in a different and creative way, from ships being dismantled, crushed with the pilot inside, and even one of the pilots is thrown away in midair. Is glorious. And back to the racetrack. It's very dirty and dark, as I said, but it's surrounded by towers with letterings in neon, and this brings a futuristic tone to the thing. And talking about the use of lighting in this anime, it is gorgeous. From the flames of the explosions, or the sparks coming out of the machinery, even the reflection of the track lights going through the visors of the pilots in their helmets, it's a great touch to show the speed of the race, which brings a sense of motion that is extremely dynamic for the scene. Not just the lighting, but the darkness are also used perfectly, especially in the scene where the journalist witnesses the displaying of power of Zack in his workshop. The scene is extremely dark, which brings a sinister tone to it. But my favorite thing about this anime is the construction of scenes. I am a fanatic for movies that show us a new world and do that using inventive shots and takes. And here we have one sequence that made my jaw drop and never be lifted again. I literally went, whoa, that's too perfect. The sequence starts with the vehicles passing by us and going through the racetrack. Then the camera pans left doing a slow traveling, and we follow them very far away like little lights going through the extension of the track. We pass by one of the signs with some gorgeous neon signs. Then the traveling finishes in the other end of the track with the cars coming in our direction. Everything in one take. I stood up and clapped. It's beautiful. I know, I am a fanatic. And the short also finishes in a glorious fashion with a sequence that is quite hypnotizing and remind me a little of 2001, in that scene that we have a space portal filled with lights. Again, without giving too many details, the scene shows Zack Hughes racing with a last adversary in the form of a ghost. Then we can theorize what this last adversary represents, but I leave that to you. Anyway, this is a great short anime, and I've seen it many times so far. And just so we don't forget, the other two short stories in the anthology are very good too. Labyrinth Labyrinthus is a story of a girl in a magical circus inside her mind. It reminded me a little of Coraline from Neil Gaiman or some of the Tim Burton movies. And the third story, Construction Cancellation Order, is a good story with a moral about the relation man versus technology, and is quite more humorous, very much in the tone of stories that Katsuhiro Otomo likes to tell. But none of them caught my eye so much as The Running Man, which for me is the best one. And this is it. If you haven't watched this anime, please look for it. And if you love these elements that I talked in the video, I'm sure that you will love this story. And comment below if you have suggestions of animes that are similar to this or different but you love as well. And my first ebook is right now in the sites of Amazon, The Angel of Fire and Steel. It's a story that I'm really proud of because it has some of the elements that I mentioned here in The Running Man. The cyberpunk, the dystopian future, the rusty technology and machinery. So if you love dark adventures, fantastical stories that take place in universes between angels and demons, and a demon as the hero of the story, you will love this book. So if you have a Kindle device or an app of Kindle in your cell phone, I will leave the link right here on the description so you can buy this ebook right now. By the way, it's very cheap. I have already received some positive reviews from the people that bought the book, so I'm very pleased about it. So don't forget to check it out as well. For now, thank you so much. If you liked this video and you liked the suggestion of the anime, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like in the video. So see you in the next Trashing with Gus, and bye bye.